Standing By, the Terry and Ted podcast, is sponsored by Jaguar Land Rover Laval. Get out of the big city and experience a construction zone-free test drive. There is such a thing.
Another edition of the Standing By podcast. I'm Terry DeMonte, that's Ted Bird.
Good day to you, sir.
And good boy to you, Dave. We'll explain that another time. That's something from our past. We are doing a new season of the podcast, and we have a plethora of guests lined up. And we have a guest here today we're going to introduce you to in a moment. I was saying yesterday it feels odd because you and I look at each other, the guest is sitting there, and we look like we were being rude, and we are, kind of.
I warned him beforehand. I said, Zig, we got to do a commercial right off the hop there, so we're not ignoring you. We'll get to you in a second.
Well, and in the new world, rude is fine, right?
It seems like,
just fucking ignore people.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, whatever. That's your problem, pal. We'll get to you when we get to you. Isn't that terrible? Wouldn't our parents slap us silly, wouldn't they?
Yeah, well, you said that yesterday when we were talking about that. You know, be like having somebody over for dinner to the house and pretending they're not there.
Yeah.
But it's the podcast world.
Seems like,
it's a new world of for Ted and I. It's like the wild, wild west.
It really is. It's the same as what we've always done, but it's different in so many ways as well.
It is. How is just before we get started? I'm just wondering how your arse in your head is.
How my arse and my head are?
Yes.
Oh, they're fine. Do you want to tell that story? Terry's been laughing for 24 hours straight.
And we're back at the scene of the crime.
We are,
I can't help it. Ted was in such a glorious mood yesterday after we finished recording a couple of episodes of the podcast. And was Murray? It was Murray that was here, right? Was it? Were you doing it for Murray?
No, I think all of our guests had left, and it was just yourself and me
and
Pantelis and Poseidon were here.
Yeah. And suddenly there was a one-act play that you devised with you as was it a halfback?
Cornerback. Yeah, I was pro football cornerback in coverage, and I was going to show the guys my backpedaling abilities. And it didn't work out, did it?
You came out of the 3-point stance.
Yeah.
And began to pedal backwards and stumbled over yourself and went ass over tin cup. And I was sitting on the couch outside, and all I heard was, "Here comes and then suddenly there were feet in the air.
I hit the door, the open door. I careened off that.
Crash, bang. And I said to Ted, I'm very, very sorry because it's a terrible quality that I have that I love the falling down. You know, I love watching people slip on the ice, especially if they have groceries. I love people who fall down the stairs. It's really quite a cruel side of me.
Well, but you know what? I think it's natural. It is funny when people falling down is funny, as long as they don't get hurt. And I didn't get hurt.
You did not.
No, my pride was a little bit wounded, but you laughed so hard that I couldn't help but laugh along with you. And he laughed for the rest of the day. We were driving down the highway, and just out of the blue, he'd start belly laughing.
What was your point of view on that, Poseidon? Did you get the full view?
No, I was in the studio, and I just had my view.
You just saw me go by, just the blur.
I just see Ted falling. I heard what you heard. Basically, I thought there was a commotion.
Yeah, it was a commotion.
I just heard the commotion. I thought somebody got into a fight, and I just see Ted. I thought somebody broke into the studio. I just see Ted falling backwards, hitting the door.
Yeah, what I liked about it was there was a commentary that suddenly stopped. You were doing a commentary, and when you realized you were about to tumble to your death, the commentary stopped.
Oh, Christ.
Anyway.
Might be a little old for that, eh?
I'm glad you're okay. But, geez Louise, that was a lot of fun. Let's say thank you. Let's stop ignoring our guest and say thank you to our friends at Jaguar Land Rover Laval.
Well, thankfully, I wasn't injured because we were able to go over and visit them instead of taking me to the hospital. We spent some time with Nino and Renato Di Cubelis and Adrian McGrath at Jaguar Land Rover Laval after recording 2 episodes yesterday, and they were holding a charity event And a snazzy event it was indeed. Well,
was
snazzy, but not snazzy.
Yeah.
Like, they also own the only McLaren dealership east of Toronto. And McLaren, if you don't know, is a supercar along the lines of Ferrari, Lamborghini. It's in that class. And they held an event that benefited the Montreal Special Needs Family Organization. And this speaks to their product speaks for itself. Jaguar, Land Rover, McLaren, I don't have to tell you, they're beautiful, high-quality vehicles. But Nino and Renato are such community-oriented people that an acquaintance of theirs had someone who had a child with special needs and formed this foundation, and Nino and Renato said, we're going to help you out as well. We want on board. We want to do something with this. So they held an event where folks could go up and see these supercars, these McLarens, and they had all kinds of different supercars up there as well. It was just a fun day for car enthusiasts to go up with their camera, check out the cars, buy some merch, make a contribution to the cause. DeLallo Burgers, Louis DeLallo from DeLallo Burgers was up there. It was a great late morning, early to mid-afternoon event, and we got to hobnob a little bit with Nino and Renato, and they couldn't be nicer people. They're so genuine and sincere.
Well, when we talk about families, it speaks to the family atmosphere that family-run business always has on a daily basis. But yesterday it was apparent about how much they care about families. It was a family event.
Yeah, it really was. So again, the product speaks for itself. And if you're in the market for a vehicle along the lines of a Jaguar or a Land Rover, or if you're up in that stratosphere where you might consider buying a McLaren, go see Nino and Renato, because I know there are other luxury car brands out there, but you'll be hard-pressed to find people that good and decent and honorable to deal with when you make that purchase.
I tried to make a down payment yesterday on one.
You did not.
Well, yeah, remember I had the $47?
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's it. Terry reaches into his pocket and goes, I got $47.
It's got to be good for a down payment, isn't it?
It was good for a laugh.
Yeah,
That's what it was
sure
good
was.
for.
Yeah.
JaguarLaval.ca and LandRoverLaval.ca.
Our special guest today on this episode is a longtime friend of mine named Ziggy Eichenbaum, who is also, I like to refer to him and have done so on the radio for years, as the mayor, the unofficial mayor of Crescent Street. Ziggy, thank you for coming in. I should mention it's the morning. Normally it wouldn't be, I would say for somebody who's owned a legendary bar as long as you have, the morning isn't your hours, but you don't sleep, I don't think, ever. I've seen you leave the bar at 4:30, and then you're back at 9 making sure it's all clean and spanky and together, just like you. How are you, Zig?
Very, very good. And you, Terry?
I'm just fine and dandy. Nice of you to agree to come in, because we have lots to talk about, and I know you have lots of stories to tell. Let's start with your story, Zig. How did you... Where did it all start? Where did you come from? Where did you go to school? How did it all start, the legendary Ziggies?
Well, I went to Chamonix High.
Did you really?
Yeah,
I didn't even know this.
Yeah,
I was thinking about this last night. I thought, I got to ask Ziggy some questions tomorrow that I don't even know. Chamonix High.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a while back.
Are you Montreal born and raised, Zig?
No. I was born in
Israel?
Poland. Yeah.
Yeah,
Raised
that's
in
what I
Israel.
thought, yeah.
I was 3 years old when we left from Poland to go to Israel.
Okay.
Then we came to Canada. My uncle sponsored us, so that's why we got into here.
So how long were you were born in Poland and came via Israel. How long were you in Israel?
14 years.
Is that right?
Yeah. And then my dad decided that was enough, and luckily one of his brothers was in Florida and one was in Canada. And at that time, the Canadian government, as long as you had somebody sponsoring you, they would let you in.
Wow. Okay.
So Zig, I've got to guess, if you came from Poland, family were Holocaust survivors?
My dad,
Yeah?
he lost everybody except 2 brothers.
Wow. Unbelievable.
That's
The
unbelievable.
whole family was wiped out.
Yeah.
Wow. So you go to Chamonix High School, and how do you end up becoming a bar owner on the legendary Crescent Street?
Well, we started in Saint-Sauveur, was me and my good friend, and we sort of took over a bar restaurant we had a tendency to drink a little too much, so we figured it was cheaper to own one. And then we got downtown.
I think a lot of bars start that way, eh? Guys who love to have a good time figure we may as well buy the place.
Yeah. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Well, yeah, if you're having too much of a good time, you're going to run the business into the ground, right?
Well, yeah, you just got to make sure your friends pay.
Yeah.
So that was, what year would that have been?
Oh,
Zig?
Terry,
Up
that
in
would have
Severe.
been 35 years ago.
35 years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember, because how long have you been in the location you're in now?
There'll be 26 years in May.
26 years. And I remember a friend of mine, our late, great, good friend Skip Snare said to me one day, we were on Crescent, because when I was young, I was on Crescent a lot. And we spent a lot of time there because we worked close to there. And I remember Skip saying to me, come on, I want to take you to Derek's. And I said, Derek's was a place that fired you. You said you'd never go back in there. And he said to me, no, it's not Derek's anymore. A guy's bought it, and it's a really nice place, and he's a really nice guy. Let's go there. Now, what year would that have been, Zig? Well, you said 26 years ago, eh?
Yeah, were you there when I first opened up? So, yeah, it had to be 26 years ago. Yeah.
So that was that before the church pews?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you bought it, it was a fucking disaster.
Yeah, I had to redo the whole. Took me almost 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the former proprietors, let's just say they weren't spending a lot of time paying attention to the business.
No, they had other priorities.
That's right, they did. And when you bought the place, what was your intention? Did you think, let's give this a go? Or did you think to yourself, I'm going to be here for a very long time?
Well, I thought I was going to be there for a long time, but I mean, a lot of people turned around and said he's going to last 6 to 8 months,
right?
Because I wasn't on the sunny side.
That's right.
And the sunny side always made it.
And you were across from the legendary Sir Winston's.
Yes, and Thursdays.
Yeah. And those were the legendary places that Montrealers flocked to. And did you think you were just going to get the overflow? Because that's what happened. A lot of people would try to get into Sir Winston's and then thought, oh, well, there's nobody
across
over
the street.
Hey, there's nobody over there.
Yeah, a lot of times. Plus you get the regulars, and then, you befriend nice people like Terry DeMonte, if you guys don't know who he is. Really lovely Ted Bird, and then they don't leave you.
I had to apologize to Zig for quitting drinking. I thought I might have put him out of business, but he's managed to survive for 25 years with me not drinking.
Yeah, well, and there was a time when we were working at Mix 96 and the office was on Fort. Every meeting we had, we didn't even need to have a meeting. We wandered down the street at 5 o'clock. Everybody would gather, usually starting on Tuesdays or Wednesdays.
But tell them why, Terry.
Well, because we like to have a good time?
No, because Rob Braid was paying for everything.
That's right. In those days, we had a tab.
Yeah, I used to go once a month to collect their check.
Yeah. That's right. And the boss at the radio station would, in the days when money was a little freer at radio stations, I'd forgotten about that. And I remember every couple of months, Rob would say, "That's enough."
His expression was, "Santa's knee is getting sore."
Because Ziggy would turn up in his office and say, "It's $2,000."
Yeah.
But that's part of what's made you successful, Zig, is you have quite a reputation of not only being loyal to your customer base, but when you started, you quickly grew a reputation for it being a safe place to go. And when I say a safe place, I'm not talking about
safe spaces.
Yeah. I'm not talking about that 21st century bullshit. I'm talking about if you were a hockey player, a National League umpire,
a Formula One driver,
a
professional athlete of any kind.
If you were
a movie star,
a famous author, people could those types of folks could go there and relax.
Well, yeah, we had the motto that Cheers was where everybody knows your name, and Ziggy's was where nobody knows your name.
That's great.
And I'm gonna sound like a complete arsehole here, but there was a time in my career where I was doing radio and I was doing television before the world of the internet, and I got recognized a lot. And when I was trying to unwind, I would go to Ziggy's, and a lot of times people would, after a couple of glasses of courage, would wander over to the table to let me know what they thought. And you always kept an eye out.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Like I said to the guys, listen, you can talk to them, you can say hi, but leave them alone. They need their own space.
Yeah, and I think didn't a lot of people come to enjoy that? Like talk about. I know you don't want to talk about some of your. Let's not talk about your current customers, but let's talk about some of the names in the past.
Well, I mean, Mordecai Richler used to come there with his wife all the time.
In the summertime, he was there almost every afternoon.
Yeah, he would sit in the booth with his wife, and they enjoyed it, and people left him alone.
Yeah.
You know, and people know my regulars and all that. You come out, you see hockey players, you see actors. Ben Kingsley was there, Robert De Niro was there. Payne Stewart, which I offered him tickets to the Canadian Open. I didn't know who he was.
That's funny. Now we have to tell. I was going to save that for later, but now we have to tell this story. Payne Stewart, in case you don't know, legendary PGA champion and golfer, and was in town for the Canadian Open. I think it was at Royal Montreal, if I'm not mistaken. And you take the story from there, Zig.
Well, he came with, when we used to have the expos, so he came with Joe West, and he said to...
the umpire.
Yeah.
Major League umpire.
And he said to Joe West...
That's all right.
Who was that? Oh, was that Zig?
I think that's
Zig's getting the call.
There you go.
And he said to Payne Stewart, he said, I have a little bar, people will leave you alone. Because he came the Sunday before...
He
was here for a whole week.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, so he came by and all that, and everything was going okay. They were talking a mile a minute, talking about baseball and all that. Suddenly they switched to golf, and the guy's going really crazy with it. So I'm looking at the guy, say, you really like golf, don't you? And he turns around, yeah, I love it. So I turned around to him and said, hey, listen, I got some tickets to the Canadian Open. Do you want to go? I'll give them to you. I said, golf and I don't get really along. So he says, no, thanks, I'm playing.
You didn't really know that Payne Stewart was a...
I had no idea.
And did he get a kick out of that, Zig?
Oh, yeah. He looked at me
like he wasn't offended or anything. Don't you know who I am?
No, he was. And one thing about him, he was such a nice guy. I mean, that anybody that walked up, they know at my place, you leave him alone. And he turned around and says, no, Zig, it's okay. Let him come and say hi. Yeah. They can take a picture with me. He signed autographs and all that, and came every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
While he was in Montreal.
And then he turned around and he said, you make sure you show up on Sunday. I said, yeah. So when the tournament was over, that was the one that Tiger Woods didn't make the cut.
Okay.
That year he was in town.
Yeah.
So then I followed him around. Everybody, all my bartenders, the whole staff went down. And he came back after the tournament, and he looks at me, and he goes, where were you? I said, well, I was following you around all the way. I said, I didn't see you. I said, what do you want me to do? Scream, hey, what are you potting? Anyway, he stayed there all night and had a blast. It was really, really nice.
Yeah, if you go into Ziggy's, if you're in Montreal ever, Ziggy's is, by the way, in case you don't know, on Crescent Street. Between de Maisonneuve and St. Catherine. On the not sunny side of the street, don't worry about that. And there is quite a collection of sports memorabilia, and one of my favorite sets of pictures are the pictures of Payne Stewart behind the bar.
Yeah, bartending.
Bartending.
That's another story. When he finished bartending and he was ready to leave, we won't mention what hour. When he's ready to leave, he turns around and says, hey, Ziggy, I had a blast. Thanks a lot. Everything is fantastic. I turned around and said, wait a second. One second, Payne. He says, what? Just hold on. I went in, I punched everything. I said, it's $1,200. And he goes, what do you mean it's $1,200? I said, did you charge anybody for any drinks that you were serving? He goes, no. Well, somebody's got to pay for it.
There's quite a collection of pictures. I think he autographed some things for you, Zig, because sadly it wasn't too long after that appearance that he perished in that plane crash.
Yes, he did, and everybody was calling me because at the beginning nobody knew that if it was him or not, because I think they shared the plane, so they weren't sure who was on the plane.
Right. Yeah.
And it was a real tragedy because the plane was on for about, I don't know, 5 hours.
Yeah, he was, if you don't know the story, he was in a private jet, and what they believe happened was there's a
cabin depressurization issue.
Thank you. I didn't know how to describe it.
And everybody, flight crew included,
passed out.
They were unconscious because they weren't getting sufficient oxygen, and the plane crashed.
They had to escort the plane and keep an eye on it because it ran out of fuel.
Yeah.
Eventually,
and
hit the ground.
Yeah, President Clinton, I think at that time, sent two F-15s, and they were going to shoot it down if he went over a city.
Yeah. Yeah,
but he landed.
It was quite a tragic story, and those stories are made even more tragic when you know what a nice man he was and what a good and decent fellow he was.
Yeah, and he just got back. Yeah, I think he won the U.S. Open.
Yeah, he was on a roll. Yeah. He was on a serious roll. What was it about? How did you know how to protect celebrities like that, Ziggy? What was it? Because it wasn't a business decision; it was a kindness decision from you.
Well, I mean, you guys need space too. So when you go out, you find a place that people, leave you alone, and you can talk to your companion or you can talk to anybody you want. And my regulars appreciate it too, and it stuck to me. And I guess everybody deserves his own space.
Got you.
Yeah, I also think that most people, if they approach a celebrity, it's with enthusiasm more than it is with ill intent.
Yes.
They just, if anything, folks can tend to be over enthusiastic. Maybe I don't know, but you don't get too many people come up and go, let me tell you something. You get some.
Yeah. I've had a couple of those, and I wouldn't consider myself a celebrity, but when you have a certain kind of profile, excuse me, like I said, after a while, after a couple of glasses of courage, you can get some of that. Yeah. Some of the best stories, the kinds of things that you don't expect would ever happen to you, happened to me at Ziggy's bar, including in the very, very early days, and I forget the circumstances. I was sitting at the bar and somebody said to me, they put a beer in front of me. I was sitting in the corner trying to hide, and the bartender put a beer down, and I don't drink beer. And I said, "What's that?" And he said, "Well, somebody wants to buy you a beer." And I said, "Well, I don't drink beer." And he said, "Oh yeah, you're going to want to drink this one." And I said, "Why would I drink that one?" And he said, "Look around the post. You know the post that's at that bar?" And I leaned forward and I looked around the post, and it was the captain of the Montreal Canadiens, Bob Gainey, was offering me a beer.
Yeah, you drink that beer.
And that beer got drunken. And it was at a time when, I was just starting to have a little bit of a profile, and I couldn't believe the captain of the Montreal Canadiens was buying me a beer. It was, it's those kinds of moments that can happen in an intimate setting, because for people who don't know, we should explain, Ziggy, it's not a big bar. It's not a huge bar.
Well, I mean, sometimes it's a lot bigger. Depends how many drinks you have.
That's true.
Well, it's kind of the antithesis of the places across the street.
Yes.
Thursdays and Winston Churchill's. Those are big, loud, hopping bars.
Yeah.
Ziggy's is a quiet bar. Yeah. It's a quiet place.
I remember it's a favorite stop for people who come in to watch the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I was sitting there one night with a bunch of people, and the game ended, I guess, and suddenly the bar was full of people with Leaf sweaters. A lot of them began to, woo!
Go Leafs, go.
And Ziggy wandered over to a guy with a Leaf sweater and tapped him on the shoulder and said, "We don't woo here. Have a good time, but there'll be none of that."
No wooing.
who are some of the? Well, if you want to see what Ziggy's Bar looks like, go on YouTube and type in 60 Minutes Mordecai Richler. Who was the 60 Minutes guy?
Morley Safer?
Was it Morley Safer that came in?
Yeah.
And they chose to do the piece at your bar.
Yeah.
That happens a lot, eh, Zig?
Well, yeah, it does. Like, I mean, I have a few movies shot there, and a lot of people doing their interviews there. Just like you guys. Remember, it was 15 or 16 years ago when tequila ran out, and you did the interview at 5 in the morning on my terrace.
That's right. and a lot of the Gazette pieces that appeared were done at my favorite booth.
Yeah.
And athletes seem to love the bar too, eh?
Yeah, I don't even know why. I mean, a lot of people just like going downstairs into a bar.
Well, I think they like the intimacy of it.
Yeah, and there's a sort of a cocoon. It's almost like a womb, like you're enveloped into the womb when you go into Ziggy's.
Yeah. And there were a number of days, I won't go into it, but there were a couple of times where we wandered in there in the dark and we wandered out of there in the light.
Yeah. Well.
And
it was early in the winter, so the light came out a little
that's all I
earlier.
want to say about that. Tell me about we have to talk about this because this was all over social media. Tell me about Drake's appearance.
Well, when he was a young lad, he came to my place. In those days, I knew a lot of the movie actors, still do. And like George Mahalka, Ben Robin, they used to do the hairstylist for the actors. And they brought him in. I think he was filming something in Montreal. I wasn't sure.
This was between, what was the TV show he was in, Degrassi?
He was in Degrassi.
Yeah, so this is between Degrassi and becoming a big music superstar.
Yeah. He was, he was a young lad.
Yeah.
And we had a couple of nights and we had a good time and all that. And I totally forgot about it. I didn't know anything. Yeah. And apparently he was doing something at the Olympic Stadium. Was something going on there with the rap and all?
Yeah,
and
there was Lil somebody and DJ Tall and Skinny of the Côte St. Luc Tall and Skinnies.
Let's ask Lil.
Well, there's a bunch of Lils. There's Lil Baby. There's all kinds of Lils. I forget which Lil it was.
What's the question exactly?
There was a rap show, a hip hop show in Montreal two weekends ago.
Sunday.
Yeah.
I have no clue. I'm not.
I just remember DJ Tall and Skinny, and that was my reaction. Well, really? Of the Côte St. Luc Tall and Skinnies.
Well, he showed up down there, and then after the show, he said to his entourage, let's go to Ziggy's. Mm-hmm. And they came down, and he said to the bartender, call up Ziggy. I want to see him. And they called me up, and he said, Drake is in town. I said, who? He says, just show up, will you? I said, okay. So I'm the one that made him wait half an hour. So who is the star now?
I saw a video that someone took from the terrace at Thursdays of Drake coming down the street and going into the bar.
When they found out he was there, when I got there were two guys at the front door, and they locked the bar.
Yeah,
and didn't want to let you in.
No, and I said, "Who are you?" I said, "Well, I think I own the place."
My name's up there on the.
Yeah, he didn't sneak in. Everybody saw him coming because that video that someone shot from the terrace at Thursdays, everyone's going nuts.
Yeah,
because it's like, wow, it's Drake, man.
So when I got in there, Drake seen me, and he said, "Hey, Ziggy," we come up, we hugged and all that, and we started talking, and he looked at one of the hats that I have there, and he says, "Ziggy, can I have one?" I said, "Yeah, sure." Anyway, and then we took a picture with it and all that.
What is it the hat says?
Make Ziggy's great.
No. It says Ziggy's
that one. Ziggy's Spot Montreal best shithole.
That's right. Great merch at Ziggy's. The staff must have just about shit when he walked in the door, I would imagine. He's one of the most famous people on the planet right now.
Well, I mean, I was like, and the bar was full, so they sort of the two guys in security locked it in and all that, and he went in and he rang the bell. When you ring the bell, you got to buy the bar around. He didn't know that. He thought it was because it was a good tip. I said, no. See, in the States, when you have a bell and you get a good tip,
you ring the bell. Yeah.
But I put the bell outside.
Okay.
So now when you ring the bell, you have to buy
I'm sure he could handle it.
I'm
Yeah.
sure he could.
I tell you one thing, Terry, the nicest person you can meet.
Wow.
He shook everybody's hand.
Yeah.
Anybody wanted to take a picture with him, he just took the picture with him and all that.
It says something about you, though, Zig, that he wanted to come back and say hello.
Well, he wanted to see a real star. No,
That's true.
no. I mean, he remembered it.
Yeah.
I totally
Yeah.
forgot about it. I mean, that was 17 years ago or something like that.
Well, one of the great things about one of the reasons we call you the Mayor of Crescent Street is because of your relationships with everybody in the neighborhood, and that's your neighbors. You guys aren't borrowing cups of sugar, but we
help each other.
You help each other,
Yeah.
exactly. You can get a bottle of tequila to one guy and swap a bottle of champagne, whatever. And also, Ziggy was always very good to the local constabulary. There was always local guys.
Yeah.
And I remember, we would be sitting at our favorite booth, and uniformed cops would often walk in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they weren't walking in under any kind of sinister circumstances. They were walking in because they loved Ziggy and they wanted to say hello. And also in a bar, it's nice to know that if there's trouble, these guys are right around the corner.
Well, I mean, what I liked about it is that they would come in and I would give them water all the time,
Right.
And they enjoyed it and they started feeling comfortable,
Right.
which is very important because a lot of bars, as soon as the police officers walk in, everybody gets nervous.
And yeah.
And some people walk out
Yeah.
and all that. And one time I had a group of people that when they came in, they walked out.
Right.
And they look at me and going, "What's going on?" I say, "Hey, listen, they don't like you guys. Let them walk out."
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
you guys protecting us right now.
Yeah.
I said, "The hell with them."
And one of the things, one of my favorite stories is one day, because Ziggy has such a great collection of sports memorabilia, I had a young man with me who was not of drinking age, and it wasn't busy, it wasn't nighttime, and I said to Ziggy, I got a couple of kids with me, and I'd like to show them some of the Canadiens memorabilia and maybe the Payne Stewart picture. He said, yeah, come bring them in. And I brought the kids in, and we were looking at pictures. And the next thing I know, we're sitting because there's nobody in the place, there's nobody in the bar. We weren't doing anything wrong. We weren't, I didn't buy them tequilas, and Ziggy gave them both, a Coke to drink, and we sat and we were enjoying Ziggy and enjoying the company, and in walked the cops. And the the older boy was momentarily terrified. But the beauty of Montreal back then, I don't know if it's still true, we weren't doing anything wrong, and they weren't doing anything wrong. They smiled, they were nice to the kids, and then they left.
Yeah, and it shows you that because what an impression he left on those kids.
That's exactly right. And there's I don't know. That's just I think that's a very special vibe, and I'm wondering what it's like because I haven't been in a while, and we're not. I'm not one of your regulars anymore. Sorry, Zig.
I
live in British Columbia.
I can't afford the sports cars anymore.
What is it like on Crescent?
And Terry, I was going to buy a McLaren.
Yeah.
If I start drinking again, Zig, you can buy one. How's that?
That sounds good.
Crescent Street is a legendary street in Montreal, and has been a legendary street in Montreal for many, many years, and was often recognized as an important street in the downtown core. But I personally think the downtown has gone for a shit, and I wonder what's the latest on Crescent Street?
Well, I mean, right now after the pandemic, which for 2 years I was only open for 6 months. So
Jesus Christ!
yeah.
You were only open 6 months out of the 2 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because our premier decided that bars were different than restaurants.
Right.
You can go to St. Winston Churchill, sit at the bar, but because he's got food, it's okay to drink. But the bar, no.
So you're not going to get the COVID as long as there's food there.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I mean,
Good to know.
Yeah. I mean, I had a sushi button, and I would give you 3 pieces of sushi, and it's up to you. You want to eat it, eat it. You don't want to do it, don't. And then they said, no, you can't play that game. Yeah. Anyway, but now it's coming back slowly. Okay.
Well, Formula One coming back that's going to make a big difference, I assume.
Absolutely, especially now that they're letting everybody in. We have a lot of the tourists are back from the States. When they couldn't get in from the States, what we had, which was very surprising, was a lot of Canadians would go around, like from Newfoundland, Calgary, Vancouver. So we've seen a lot of them coming back. And before we opened up, it was like a zoo. Everybody wanted to get it off their chest. Everybody wanted to come out.
Yeah.
Which is nice now. Now it's stable.
Okay.
So the people that wanted to come out came out. Now they're coming out Friday and Saturday, not every day of the week, which is nice. A lot of the bartenders can relax a little bit more now.
What are some of the challenges of running a bar in Quebec, Ziggy? What are some of the things that people
Before
don't...
pandemic or now?
Well, it just as a business, as a bar owner in Quebec, there's got to be stuff that goes on behind the scenes that we don't understand. Like for example, one day you were telling me about liquor inspectors and stickers.
Oh, I think it's our province or maybe somebody else. We have stickers on the bottles. So we have to buy it from the warehouse.
Right.
So if a sticker falls off or anything like that, and they come in at that time and you don't have a sticker on it, you get a fine. And then if you do it a few times, then you have to go in front of the liquor board, and they'll lock you down for 7 days to up to 30 days. They were supposed to eliminate that, but apparently COVID hit and all that, so now everything is back on. So you got to be careful what you're doing, and you got to make like fruit flies. I mean, it's an appetizer if you drink it. But if they catch a bottle with fruit flies, first of all, you get a fine.
Really?
Or if they're nice, they'll make you pour it down the drain.
Oh, God.
And not give you the ticket. So
wow.
It's a few little things. But mainly what happens in bars and restaurants and all that is the equipment that it fails.
Is that right? That's the biggest issue?
And a lot of it will happen on the Grand Prix weekend.
Oh,
your
God.
fridge will stop working. So you got to run around.
I love the one year you said to me, I've introduced a food menu. You can get fish and chips. And when I got there was a bowl of the goldfish.
Yeah, the goldfish crackers.
Next to a bowl of potato chips.
Fish and chips.
I got food now, Ziggy. Ziggy, how did you describe, one year you described it to me, you said the Grand Prix, at the time it was NASCAR and Champ Car. How did it work? How you said?
What's the difference between Grand Prix, Champ Car, and NASCAR? Grand Prix, they come in and they order a bottle of Cristal and they won't ask you how much. Champ Car, they order a beer and they say how much. NASCAR, they bring their own beer.
But for people who don't know, the Grand Prix is Christmas for business owners downtown, isn't it?
Yes, between that and St. Patty's.
Yeah.
But Grand Prix, it's usually a whole week because the mechanics and the tire boys, they come in a week before. So they'll come in on a Sunday and leave on a Sunday.
Right.
And what's nice about it, at that time, let's not talk about the pandemic, but when they used to come in, I haven't seen a lot of people the whole year.
Yeah.
And they're from Japan, Australia, Europe, and all that. And they all come usually to the same places that were there before.
Yeah.
So you see them again every year at the same time.
What does the Grand Prix mean to the economy of the city?
Wow, it's absolutely huge. You're talking about maybe $70, $80 million that comes in.
Wow.
And the hotel jumped right away on the bandwagon, so they won't rent you a room for a day. You got to rent it for like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, they make hay while the sun shines, as the old expression goes.
Yeah.
Well, I remember there was one of my favorite restaurants was on Mountain Street in the 90s, called. We used to go there all the time.
Not Les Mains des Oliviers.
No,
that was
wasn't,
Bishop.
It wasn't Les Mains des Oliviers. It was up on a mountain, and I of course can't remember the name. But anyway, that owner said to me, without the Grand Prix, I don't make the year.
Yeah, a lot of them. Yeah. I would agree with it.
Yeah, he said he could take the money he made from Grand Prix week, and that would carry him through any quiet time of the year. Is that accurate?
Very, very accurate.
Really, eh?
Yeah.
Wow.
If they, I mean, everybody walks around, so everybody gets the gravy because you can't get in everywhere.
How has it changed, Zig, from the, Montreal was, when you look back at, post Expo 67 through the 70s into the 80s, there were some economic downturns, but Montreal and Crescent Street in particular, and downtown Crescent and Bishop, they were the lifeblood of the downtown area. There was the days of the happy hour and the 2 martini lunch, and Montreal was quite a going concern back then. Things have changed. People's attitudes have changed. I think the governments have changed, and the people that run Montreal have changed the city. How have you seen it change?
Well, it's never going to come back to what it was. I mean, we all know it. I mean, the whole thing is, look at Brassard, Trant, and look in West Island, look in Laval.
You don't have to come into the city anymore to get the things that you used to have to come into the city for.
What did you say? You said today you'd rather put a gun in your mouth than go downtown.
Yeah, I said the only way I'm going downtown is if someone puts a gun to my head and says we're going downtown.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't blame you. I mean, first of all, you can't find parking.
No.
Right.
Second of all, you're afraid to have a pop and then get into your car.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, I don't know what they're doing. Look at St. Catherine right now. You can't park anywhere. I mean, the sidewalks are 10.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel bad for not for the bars and restaurant as much, but the shopping.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, you're not going to come downtown if you can't park.
Right.
Yeah, they're killing downtown retail.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, look what they did to St. Denis Street. Look what they're doing to Peel Street right now. I mean, they want to do it all the way up to Sherbrooke, the double sidewalks and all that. So with the bars and restaurant in there are stuck.
I think they want to turn downtown into a promenade, right?
That's what I think. But
Right.
I mean, they probably want to make it only for the tourist, because I can't see anybody living on the West Island or anywhere else around Montreal going to drive into town.
Right.
Yeah, well, it's become a pain in the ass rather than becoming something exciting to do. Hey, man, we're going downtown. That used to be exciting.
Yeah.
Let's go downtown. Now it's, Christ, I got to go downtown. Well, really, that's what it's become.
Yeah, I mean, look at well, you live in the West Island, but look at West Island, Taschereau, Laval. I mean, everybody's putting their bars and restaurants in shopping centers, so they got parking.
Yeah.
Have people talked to you about this, Zig? Have you noticed it from a customer point of view?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I have a lot of people that come up and apologize. Sorry, Ziggy, we didn't come down because, we only come down when we can, so we can find a parking spot and all that. And I said, listen, I understand.
What do you, I don't understand, like when I was, I don't want to sound like somebody who's living in the past. When I was a kid, St. Catherine Street to me made my eyes big. It was neon signs, and there was hard to imagine, but it was two-way traffic on St. Catherine. And there were cars and blowing horns, and people were flagging. It felt like New York a little bit.
It did.
What happened?
Well, I mean, like I said, everybody opened on the suburbs. I have a lot of my friends that they just got fed up with downtown.
Yeah.
And they went and opened in Laval and in the West Island. Look at McKibbin's. I mean, they got 3 different places all over the place.
Do you think it's an age thing? Like as people get older, they get sick and tired of.
That's probably one factor, but it's also the administration right now in the city is they're eco-conscious, they're green, they want fewer cars, they want more bicycles, they make it difficult to come downtown.
I don't understand is. I don't understand the arrogance of that. Like, I know that a lot of politicians are patting themselves on the back, talking about how they're helping save the planet. But that's delusional. To think that, if you build sidewalks so 12 people can walk side by side down Peel Street, and the economics of that, how many times have they dug up Peel Street in the last 10 years.
Well,
there's an arrogance to that makes that I don't understand, that you think you're somehow making a huge difference by making sure that nobody can park.
I'm not well traveled enough of late to know the answer to this, but I'd like to know if that's happening in other cities. They're not putting in big, huge sidewalks on Fifth Avenue in New York,
No,
are they? To
no.
make that less appealing, or on the Champs-Élysées?
No, some people will say they changed Times Square. A lot of people will say not for the better, because you can now sit in a lawn chair in Times Square. And a lot of people argue, is that the good, is that a place for a picnic, Times Square? I don't think it is. Not. And I've witnessed it now in Vancouver, where there is an element of that where they're trying to make, they're trying to accommodate people with bicycles and scooters and pedestrians, but they're also trying to accommodate people who want to come downtown and park.
Well, it's like, I don't know. I think maybe our mayor or something like that they're looking more towards Europe, that they're making downtown no cars.
Yeah, but Europe doesn't. If you've been to Europe, Europe was built when there was horses and carriages.
Yeah.
That's why the streets in Italy are so small. That and there are so many people in such a tiny space. We have so much room in this country.
Also, Europe people can park anywhere.
Yes.
Have you seen people parking in Europe?
Yes.
It's go to downtown Athens. It's a free for all.
Wherever
you can park on a
sidewalk.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
They don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure that we want that kind of chaos, but I don't fear, but I feel bad for the electricity that used to be downtown.
Well, I mean, they're trying to get everything in high rises and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Peel Street from St. Catherine, I think, to René Lévesque. Somebody bought it. It's going to be all condos.
Really, eh?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, within 2 years.
Oh, good times.
Wow. Peel
That's
Pub, McLean's, and all that. They got
They're all
their leases
go?
up. Yeah, they're going, the whole thing.
So is that good for your business, Zig, to have everybody living in towers downtown?
I mean, I don't know. We're not sure. We're going to wait until we're going to see what happens.
Yeah.
It's maybe it's going to bring more people in. I'm not sure.
Is Crescent Street still Crescent Street?
Yes, it is.
It is.
You come over like Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and
It's still jumping.
yeah, it's still jumping.
That's interesting, because as the scene has moved from place to place, like Saint Laurent was the scene for a while. Now I think it's more Notre Dame down in Little Burgundy. Is it in Little Burgundy or Griffintown?
Little Burgundy
That's the
goes
scene?
all the way from up and down.
That's the scene now, but Crescent Street is still its own scene and always has been. Eh?
Yeah. Well, like you said, Ted, what happened to Notre Dame and Little Burgundy and Griffintown and all that, all the big restaurants moved there, like Grinders, you got Burgundy Lion, Joe Beef, all of them are moving towards that, and they have more space.
Yeah. But it's a challenge to try and park down there.
Oh, yeah.
As somebody that lived in Griffintown, good luck with that.
And what happened to Saint Laurent? Was that political decisions that drove that scene away?
That was the local government fucked that up.
The plateau
because
administration.
they just stopped. They would not stop digging up, and people stopped going.
Yeah.
And then those businesses closed. What were the name of those big Italian restaurants? The drivers.
There was
Buonanotte.
The Globe was a big one.
Yeah.
I mean, those in the 90s, that was the happening. Was the happening strip.
Yeah, St. Lawrence right now, apparently what I heard, they have a lot of clubs, but like more for the kids, 18 to 25.
Yeah.
So it's coming back?
You have a lot of wannabe drug dealers and wannabe hookers.
Okay.
Great. That's just what you want.
Ziggy, tell. I know you don't like to tell too many stories, but what's a favorite sports story? Is it the night the Habs lost and they all wandered in? Like, what are some of the? I mean, I've been in that bar and go, Jesus Christ, there's Patrick Roy. Jesus Christ, there's Larry Robinson.
But, don't forget, Terry, for 8 years, George Gillette on the Canadiens.
Oh my God, I forgot about this.
So I got every
You
time.
were buddies with Foster.
Foster,
his son.
yeah. So, like, I mean, I was at the owner's lodge for every game.
Yeah.
Now I'm a peasant like you guys.
You haven't had an invite from Jeff Molson yet, eh?
No, that little. Well, don't forget. I mean, he got the Canadiens in my back bar.
Yes. Yeah.
George Gillette was there, and Jeff used to come in there like something on fly all the time.
Yeah.
And George at that time turned around to Jeff and he said to him, he said that there were 3 bidders for the Canadiens. And he said to him, he said, if you match the price, I will sell it to you because I bought it from your dad.
Wow.
And that happened in my back bar. And
Wow.
That's
a great story.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
That's sports history. And one of the things I used to love about it is that was, I would tell my buddies, especially the ones that came in from out of town, this was, even if you didn't have tickets to the game, if you wanted to talk to the owner, you could go to Ziggy's, because Foster was in after every game, and they were the nicest people, and they would sit and they would actually ask fans their opinion.
well, I mean, he asked me to invite you. Remember when I took you?
Yeah. There was one night we went, well, it was a couple of times I was in Foster's
Canadian Lodge.
The loge, and it was a combination of 2 loges at the corner of the rink. And I had a couple of very memorable nights. Let's just say that it was a very, very memorable night. But one of the great things was you could sit in a booth with the owner of the Montreal Canadiens and talk about the club.
Yeah. And the reason he had to get rid of the Montreal Canadiens was because of Liverpool.
Right, he bought the soccer club.
And he taught me one thing, and he turned around and he said to me, Ziggy, 3 things. Never go into business with your best friend, and never go 50-50.
Really?
Always go 50-50 with a shotgun. So that means if you can't buy it,
Yes.
the other person buy it, because Hicks didn't want to sell Liverpool.
Yeah.
And then because George had a feeling that the market was going to go down. And the market did go down, and then they wanted their money, the bank, and then they couldn't come up with it.
Right.
And my understanding is in Colorado, they have a law, like in Miami, that they can't seize your house or your bank account.
Wow.
But they can take your assets.
Wow.
So you had to get rid of, liquefy everything you had.
Well, that was I've forgotten about that. It was a very, very special era.
We got to do some business.
Yes,
and we got to do the tweet sheet too.
I keep forgetting. We've been at this for so long. I forgot we've got to say thank you to a couple of our sponsors.
Who do you want to start with?
Well, why don't we say hi to David Drucker and our friends at UPS Canada. I've talked about this. Well, if you watch the podcast, you know David Drucker and Ted and I have known each other for many, many years. And David Drucker now oversees the Canadian operation of the UPS stores. And the UPS stores are the perfect thing if you want to send a package to your grandparents in Saskatchewan, or if you run a small business and you've got a dozen boxes that you absolutely have to get out today. They are everywhere. There's over 300 locations, more than 300 locations all across the country. And what I love about those locations, no matter where you are, you're dealing with somebody from your community, an entrepreneur like yourself, who is running the business to help you run your business. So whether you want to send a fax, you need to print labels, you need copies of things, you have to put stuff in boxes, that you need packing materials, that you need packing tape, that you need shipping solutions, whatever it is, the UPS store can handle it for you. And it really makes things a lot easier. I've told the story many times about when we were moving across the country and the moving truck had come and gone, and we had some stuff that we had to get packed. And I put it in a container and brought it into the shop and watched the nice man at UPS pack it all with proper packing in front of me, and then taped up the box, got a label on it, and a couple of days later we had it out in British Columbia. It really is the right solution, whether you're a small business owner, like I said, or you want to get a package to grandma. UPS Store.
.ca.
Thank you very much.
UPSstore.ca.
I always get the website.
Let's do the tweet sheet. I think Zig will get a kick out of this.
Okay, you'll get a kick out of this.
I do this on my morning show on Light 106.7 every day, and Terry and I do it on Saturday mornings, and we do it on the podcast. The tweet sheet we find 3 funny tweets, and we share them. And the fun thing about the podcast is that we can use the ones that we can't use on the radio. So there are some that could be used on the radio, but I think for the most part, the ones we dig up for the show here are like this one from @What's a Greenhorn. Sorry, I'm not a nerd like you all, but what the fuck is the periodic table of the elements? The elephants, sorry. The periodic table of the elephants. Hey, that's the same one.
Here we go.
From @TheHype. Me passing someone. You slow, bitch. Me being passed. Okay, Speed Racer. How true is that, eh?
Very, very true.
Yeah. And from @Cashman Actor. Inventing sheep. Angel. Here's the clouds you ordered. God. Make them sentient. Angel. Okay. God. Rips bong. And like really fucking dumb.
The tweet sheet, a feature on the Ted Bird Morning Show on Light 1067.
Light 1067, 106.7 FM, online at light1067.ca on the iHeartRadio app and on your smart speaker.
Which, by the way, that's where you can hear the reincarnation of Terry and Ted on a Saturday morning.
Saturday morning, 9 to noon. It's Saturday Mornings with Terry and Ted.
Ziggy, have you kept relationships with some of these people we're talking about? Do you ever talk? I know Joe West is retired now, but do you ever keep in touch with some of these guys?
All of them. They all
Great.
called.
This is great.
Foster always calls.
Yeah.
I call him. George is doing okay.
Great.
Yeah, I thought for a while there they were trying to get, I think it was the Buffalo or Detroit.
Yeah.
He was looking into
Buying another hockey club?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
They were great owners. They really, they people forget they turned the club around.
Yes, yes. I mean, he's the one that came up with the section on top, family section.
Yeah.
That hamburger, Coke, and three.
And everybody
tickets.
was shitting gumdrops. Hey, they're letting an American buy the
These
team?
people don't know anything about hockey.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I loved about Mr. Gillette was he went and asked people what they thought.
Yeah.
Talk to
And he
people.
did
Yeah.
a lot for Montreal too.
Yeah.
Charities and all.
Yes.
He had the Montreal Children's Hospital.
Yeah.
You had all the hockey players come up to every event.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know. After Jeff bought it, he sort of, I think, went a little sideways. The players started wearing what hats they wanted in the dressing room.
Yeah.
I won't mention names, but you know. But I mean, in his days and even before him, you couldn't do that.
Right.
You don't walk into a Montreal Canadiens dressing room and you're a hockey player.
Yeah.
And you're wearing
Your own hat.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't go. It doesn't fly. Some of these people, like you say, you see them either once a year or once every couple of years, but they've kept in touch.
Yeah, they really did, and they always come back and say hi and all that. So it's nice to see them.
Zig, are there any more characters? This is really for a Montreal audience. I miss the Nick Oftemars of the world. I remember when.
Well, I'll tell you one thing there. He probably got arrested. He would have been still alive, pinching all those asses.
That's absolutely true. Yeah. He wouldn't have been able to function in today's world.
Today.
No.
Yeah, and I remember, and I tell people this all the time, he'd be sitting in the booth at Ziggy's, and if you've never been to the bar, you know, if the bar is quiet, you can hear the door open, and then you wait to see what face is coming around from behind the glass. And when it was Nick, I would always think to myself, "Oh Christ, here comes Nick," because he smoked Jetanes, and he was always yelling, but he would sit down, and then the next thing you know, you were in this great political rant and listening. Like he was such a character.
Well, I mean, he brought a lot of those politicians to the bar, like Warren Ullman. And, you know, so they used to huddle Mordecai Richler to him and argue for hours and hours.
Yeah, or he'd walk into the bar and he'd introduce you to somebody, and I'd say to the guy, "Oh, it's nice to meet you, Andrew. What do you do?" "Oh, I'm a Superior Court judge in Illinois," or something like that. Are there any guys like him left?
No, I don't think so.
That era is over,
I
right?
think the last one was Mordecai Richler.
Yeah, that's true, eh?
I mean, I used to love him towards the end. Like, he would sit on my terrace.
Yeah.
And I would always do, like, as soon as kids came by and wanted to talk to him, I would say, no, you can't do it. And one time he turned on, no, Ziggy, it's okay. Let him.
Yeah.
And I said, something's wrong.
Yeah.
And then I found out he had cancer.
Yeah.
And then he would talk to anybody that wanted to. Something changed in him.
Yeah.
And especially the young kids. He would give them as much time as they wanted.
That's nice to hear. You know that. That's nice to hear.
I want to tell this story. What was his drink, Zig? It was.
He used to drink Macallan 12.
Right. Okay.
With a Perrier,
Yes.
and his wife used to love. They used to sit like a beautiful couple, and she used to drink half a bottle of champagne.
Yeah.
Have Clicquot.
Lovely, lovely, lovely couple. And every, like I said, in the summertime, he was always here in the summertime. He lived in London in the winter. But in the summertime, especially, we would walk down from Fort Street. It would be me and like 3 other guys from the radio station. And the time that we arrived, he was always on his favorite stool in the bar. And the favorite stool was close to the booth that was my favorite. And we would always say hi to him. We would always say, "Afternoon, Mr. Richler," and he never acknowledged us. He never looked up. He never said hello. And one day I said to the guys, "You know what? To hell with him. I don't know what's up his ass. I don't know why he's so grumpy, but let's just leave him alone. He obviously wants to be left alone." And a couple of weeks later, we went into the bar without saying anything. We sat in the booth, and we were having a discussion, an argument about a street in Montreal that had been changed direction, or it was a one-way going north or whatever. And we were all arguing and yelling at each other. And he put his drink down, and he turned around and he said, "No, boys, I think you got that one wrong. It's Aylmer, or whatever street it was, is a one-way running north. So what you want to do is you want to turn before you get..." And my jaw hit the ground. I thought to myself, "Oh my God, he's so nice. He's being so kind." And after he left, I said, that's such a turn. You know, he's gone from the sullen, miserable, I don't want to talk to anybody. And he was just so warm and nice. And I said to Zig, "What happened there? What's going on there?" And Ziggy said to me, he's not well. He's got a battle on his hands. And I think that's what turned it, eh, Zig?
Oh, it turned him totally.
Yeah.
You know, so he just wanted to grasp everything. Anybody that talked to him, he wanted to keep everything that was going on.
And it's such... If you're born and raised in Montreal, you understand this. It's such a Montreal moment to be walking up Crescent Street and see the legendary Mordecai Richler sitting there with a snifter.
Yeah.
That's a real Montreal. That's as Montreal as watching Jean Beliveau come out of the old Montreal Forum with a briefcase. That happened to me one day too.
And go have bacon and eggs at Casse-Croûte Coin.
Yeah, at Moe's. Yeah. It's those are really, really special moments. Ted, please tell me about my friends at Merson before we ask Ziggy more questions.
Merson Automotive is a full-service garage. They're known for tires. Generations of Montrealers have been doing their summer and winter tire changes at Merson Automotive in NDG for generations, hence the term generations of Montrealers. The Mersons have been in business for 3 generations. The 4th generation is up and coming. Ben Merson started the company. Mark Merson took it over when Ben retired. Kara took it over when Mark retired. I don't think Kara and Celso are anywhere near retirement, though.
No.
They're just moving into their prime. Here's the deal with Merson. When you go into Merson, whether it's for tire change, pardon me, or automotive maintenance or repair, they will not sell you a product that you don't need. They will not recommend a service that you don't need. They have lasted as long as they have and continued to thrive as a business because they operate with honesty and integrity. And if there's 2 things you look for in any business, but particularly in that business, in automotive maintenance and repair, it's honesty and integrity. You will find it in spades at the Mersons. They're on Saint Jacques, just west of Cavendish. You can find them online at mersonauto.com. Tell them Terry and Ted sent you, because we've been doing business with them for about 25 years, and I wouldn't send you anywhere else.
Zig, have you ever thought about selling?
What am I going to do?
That's right. What would you do?
You can go down to Ziggy's.
But then I'll have to pay.
Yeah, that's right.
No, when you were mentioning Belleville too, and when I was at the days with George Gillette and Foster, after every game, Belleville would sit there for at least 45 minutes, and he would sign everybody's autograph that came down the stairs. And how many times you were there when you were watching him all by himself? He'd sit there, and he watched every kid come down, and the way he signed it.
I was going to say, if you've ever seen Jean Beliveau's autograph,
every autograph took a minute.
yeah, because and I asked him about it once. I was lucky enough to be able to interview him, and I asked him about the care that he took when he signed his name. And he said to me, I'm paraphrasing, but what he was telling me was, if I'm in a privileged enough position where people want me to sign something for them, the least I can do is make sure they can read it.
And that's the antithesis of Mordecai Richler illness. And I don't mean to speak ill of the dead. And it's nice to hear that story, that after he got ill, that he had that spiritual change. Mm-hmm. And it's nice that he went to his final reward with that, in that frame of mind. But that's a cautionary tale to me. And Jean Beliveau serves as an example, because Jean Beliveau didn't undergo or require a spiritual change when he got towards the end, because he was always that wonderful, gracious, kind human being.
And if you've ever seen an autograph from players today, you understand what he's talking about, because sometimes I look at an autograph and it says Kirschwolf. And I think, well, what is that?
Well, you got to check the number, because a lot
of
hockey pucks that I get all the time. Who is number 76 now again? Yeah.
Any tennis players come in, Zig?
Oh, I used to have everybody come in.
Is that right?
I had Agassi in there.
There you go. There's a story for every sport, eh?
Yeah. Remember, I sent you to my lodge. I had a lodge at the tennis before.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. That's a good thing.
Ziggy used to give us tickets to that loge every year. Do you remember the time that Skip went and Anna Kournikova was playing? Is that what you were thinking of?
Story I want.
Do you want to tell it? Well, you were there. I wasn't there. You told me the story.
Ziggy had given us tickets, and then it was for Anna Kournikova, and I went with my late great buddy Skip. And at tennis, quiet please, quiet please.
And Ziggy's seats were at the end of the court. They weren't on the side; they were at the end. So you would see Anna Kournikova standing there, bent over, swinging her bum back and forth while she was waiting to return the serve.
And after the umpire had said, quiet please, there was silence, and then you heard, oh! And it was my buddy Skip.
Watching Anna Kournikova. Christ.
You did. You had great seats, Zig. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and they used to sign my seat. What do you call it? The plaque.
Yeah.
It said Ziggy's Pub on it. Yeah. What the fuck is Ziggy's Pub?
It would be like Laurentian Bank.
Yeah, that's right. Domtar, the Desmarais family.
Alcan Aluminum, Ziggy's Pub.
And
you were a player, Zig.
And they used to get pissed off at us because we would come down with fucking the load of beers. And the Desjardins Bank will go, security. And the security would say, we can't do anything. That's Ziggy's Pub.
Those are
that's Zig's.
Out of all the, tell me about the memorabilia, because it's quite something if you've never been into the pub. As I said, one day I wanted to take the kids in there just to show them the memorabilia. You collect it from auctions? People send it to you, Zig? Or?
Well, a lot of like the players, they give me their own sticks.
Yes.
So they play sticks. So they come up and sign it and give it to me. A lot of the stuff that I got in there, too, was because of you guys. You used to send a limo for me to go to the charity events.
Well, because you were our favorite.
With 2 bottles of champagne in there, so I get hammered.
Get good and drunk before the auction.
Get Ziggy all liquored up for the auction.
Oh, yeah.
Sold! Ziggy Eichenbaum.
Well, I one day, what was it? I bet, I think, 2 tickets to the Masters.
Yes.
And
I think it was the Masters tickets. Wasn't it a plane ride?
Yeah,
too?
plane, 2 tickets.
Yeah.
Hotel.
Yes.
Anyway, so it came out to 20,000 or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
So when I woke up, I realized what I did. I said, I don't even like golf.
Tried to pawn his tickets off on Payne Stewart.
We used to do a charity auction, and come to think of it, a lot of organizations got a lot of toys at Christmas because of your generosity, Zig. That's another thing that I know you don't like to talk about. We've been very generous with a lot of charities, and that's come to think of it. I think about the Melissa Etheridge, some of the album stuff that you have.
That was when I picked it up, and Nick was sitting in my bar, and I was so excited. I picked up Melissa's guitar. I thought it was his daughter.
Wrong Melissa.
Wrong Melissa, yeah.
No, he turns around and says, "You dimwit." I said, "What?" He said, "She's a bass player."
Yeah, do you have a favorite piece that's in the bar that's really, really special, or they're just all
probably,
special?
Probably the Keith Richard guitar.
Yeah, what's the story with that?
That was Skip there. That got me going there.
Yeah.
I picked it up, and it's just beautiful. People like to see it.
Yeah.
So I think I got Melissa Etheridge, Melissa Hoftemauer, Garth Brooks, and Keith Richards.
Yeah. It's not only a great place to go get a cocktail, it's also a great place for sports memorabilia. Hi.
Do you want to talk about sleeping or engineering?
Well, I want to talk about engineering, and we have a new sponsor, and I'm hesitant to start talking about it because I'm a knucklehead. And when Sean came to us and said, I would like to advertise on your podcast, I'd like you to tell people about my company and how I can help bring people's ideas to market. And I said, are you sure you know who you're talking to? Engineering now? What's that now?
Sean Smith runs a company called Vozwin. They're an engineering consulting firm, electrical engineering and design, industrial engineering and design, and there is one other engineering discipline and design that is skipping my mind right now. But if you have an idea, if you are an inventor or an innovator, and you have an idea for a product, or you have an existing product or service that you want to improve, but you need engineering help to improve it, Sean and his team at Vozwin are the people that you go to. They do all the all the research, they do all the spec, they do all that engineering stuff that Terry and I don't know anything about. Yeah, like Zig, do you ever have any ideas? Like if you're in the bar, did you ever think to yourself, pardon me, boy, if I only had a something or other, I could do this better, I could do this easier. This is the kind of work that they would do.
Mm-hmm. And do they patent it and all that? Or?
Well, they'll show you how to get it all to market.
They take you through that entire process and show you how to get your invention or your improved product or service to market. It's stuff that.
When Sean first talked to us, Ted and I both, when he was finished talking, went, "What?"
Yeah.
But Sean is a fan of the podcast and insisted that if you are looking for somebody to help you bring your idea to market, Sean and his company can do it for you.
Yeah, that'd be great. I know a lot of people that it takes a lot of steps to bring something.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
I mean, that beautiful service.
Yeah, and not only
Good luck, boys.
he knows all the he knows the steps, and his company can also help you with the design and the innovation that you need to do. It's one thing to know the steps; it's another thing to actually come up with the product and to make to do the proper design and innovation.
Like their website and all that, they can come up and figure it out.
Yeah, that's another thing they do is software as well. Yeah. You name it, they can do it. Visit them online at Vozwin.com, and then you'll go, oh, that's what they were talking about.
There you go. Ziggy Eichenbaum is our special guest. We have been, I've been going to Ziggy's for the longest time before I moved away to British Columbia, and affected Ziggy's bottom line. It's our favorite place in town, and we decided to get Ziggy here to tell some of the stories. What is some of the have you ever had big trouble in the bar, Zig? I've never been in the bar when there was trouble.
Well, it's never big trouble.
No?
But I mean, always somebody when he gets a little tipsy sometimes it gets a little out of hand and all that. But no, I didn't. Maybe once or twice a year.
Can you see it coming? You can see it coming, can't you?
Not really. No, but luckily for me, it's that my clientele is a little older.
Yes.
So I don't get the
I remember one of the first times I was in the bar, and there was I guess there was maybe 10 or 12 kids came through the door, and wanted to know how much your draft was. And you said to them, I don't sell draft, and come on upstairs. I'm going to show you where you want to go.
I sent him to Mad Hatters.
It was the first time I'd seen a bar owner steer customers out of the bar because you were looking for a specific clientele, especially at the beginning, eh?
Well, I mean, if I had that, a lot of the Mordecai Richlers, the Nick Achtermauer, the sports guy, they wouldn't come down. They said, we're not going to go down there. We don't know what's going to happen when we get there.
Yeah.
So I tried to more do it a little more mellow. Like you know yourself, what I had to do. Every speaker at my place had its own control.
Yes.
So because
I was a pain in the ass.
Well, not only you, Mordecai Richler and everybody else. So what I did is I put a control on every speaker. So if Terry would sit there and he says, Ziggy, can you lower the music? I can lower that side.
Yeah. You don't have to lower the whole bar.
Yeah.
Well,
that's smart.
One of the things that we loved about the place.
Can I patent that now too?
Yeah, take that to Sean. Yeah.
By the way, a good idea. Sorry to interrupt.
That's all right.
A good idea for the engineering thing that you guys said. I've had this idea for a while for the bars. I don't know if it's good or bad. You're gonna tell me you're a bar owner. Is you know how the bar owner, the guy behind the bar is always like, "What do you want? What do you want?" He always has to go see all these people, right? What you do is you put an extension on the bar of a screen. You make it and you put multiple screens about shoulder width apart from each other, and everyone goes up to the bar. They order their drink on that screen. They type in, and the bar owner can edit what drinks they can choose from. They order, and the guy behind the bar gets it on the screen, and whichever he gets first, obviously he pours that one and he brings it to people, and they can pay from the machine directly from the bar.
Oh, boy.
Well, that's got to be a little more high-tech than me. I said, what the fuck do you want? And if you want a cocktail, you ain't getting it from me.
Well, that's another feature of the bar that I love. When people come in and they want some kind of exotic thing with an umbrella in it. And so, what do you always say to them, Zig?
What kind of beer do you want?
Yeah, or here's your rye and ginger.
This is one of the things that we loved about the bar was you could go and you could have a discussion about work. You could have a discussion about music. You could have a discussion about whatever you wanted. It was the place that I would choose to bring guests that had a profile. Before he was prime minister, the prime minister and I would gather there, and we would want to have a conversation. So you didn't want to go somewhere where you had to yell over the music.
Yeah, he never forgot about it. Still coming back.
I know you still see him, eh?
Yeah, he came during COVID too with the mask on.
Yeah. Even after he became prime minister, it's a nice thing. Drake, the prime minister, the athletes, they don't forget.
Yeah. No, that's nice about it.
Yeah,
especially to be honest with you, with Drake, that was something. Was a curveball.
Well, Drake is probably one of the most famous people on the planet.
I know. I had to make new hats again.
Do you see a time coming, Zig, where you would step away, or it's just in your blood?
Well, right now it's in my blood. It's working okay. It's working itself. I mean, I enjoy going in the morning and fixing the toilet,
Yeah.
or the sink
mopping
in the bar.
floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I hired a cleaner.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
wow.
a cleaner.
Yeah.
I still. He doesn't come on Tuesdays because I like to still keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I mean it's. I guess it's in the blood.
Yeah. Well, you're more of a host. I remember one summer day, I had a convertible at the time, and I brought our producer, Jeff Bartlett, Fuffus, as we used to call him. And it was a beautiful sunny afternoon, and I said, you know what? We've been driving around for about an hour and a half now, and it's coming up on 12:30. I think we should go for a drink. And he said to me, Ziggy's is closed. And I said, no, Ziggy will open for us. And I called you, and you came down to the bar and opened the goddamn thing up. It was unbelievable. I'll never forget it. You
Is that the little convertible you have?
Yes, remember that's the I think you
remember
lost
the story?
Yes, you lost a couple of your hair plugs, I think.
Yeah. He decided to drive me to
up north.
What was that? Was with Sean? We went to
Bourbon Street North.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's right.
And Terry decided to take the top down.
Yeah.
And I just got my new plugs in. So the next day, Terry comes to the bar, and I say, "Hey, Terry, you owe me $80." He says, "What's that for?" I said, "I lost 2 plugs."
Yeah, I think you just I think this is what's made you so successful, Zig. It's kind of like going over to your house. You just like having people over.
Yeah, I do,
Hey,
but
that's-
not in my house.
No.
I know, I'm just kidding.
the bar is like that. The bar has got that vibe of, hey,
You've cultivated relationships.
Yes, that's a perfect.
Wow,
way to
that's
put
a
it.
big word.
I know. No, but I mean, they're not just customers who come in for
Yeah,
a drink. They
they're
become your
friends.
friends.
Yeah.
They are. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
And it feels good to see them, Like even you, Terry, I only see you now maybe twice a year.
Yeah, if that, especially lately. Well, you'll see me this week now that I'm in town.
Yeah.
Well, you're supposed to meet Bill.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We're supposed to see Bill Brownstein there. It's time for me to quickly tell you about our friends at Matlab Runner, who are sleep specialists. That's what they are. They're sleep specialists. It's a place to get a mattress. It's a place to get a new pillow. It's a place to get your questions answered about sleeping and mattresses and mattress quality. This is the way you want to shop for a new mattress. You want to be treated like family by a family-run business. That's what Matlab Runner do, and that's what they've been doing for a very, very long time now. Matlab Runner, when you walk into a store, you will get warmly greeted, and you get asked a couple of questions, and then you'll be pointed to a couple of products. No one's going to follow you around. Nobody's going to pressure you, and now they've offered listeners of the podcast a 5% discount on anything in the store, on anything online, whether it's regular sales price, a sale price or a regular price. You can get a 5% discount because you're listening to the podcast. The code is TER05, TER05, or TED05. So when you go into a Matlab Runner store or you want to enter a promo code online at matlabrunner.ca, enter TER05 or TED05 and pick up the extra 5% from our favorite family-run, long-time sleep specialists, the good people at Matlab Runner. matlabrunner.ca, stores all over the greater Montreal area.
We got to get out of here. I think
know.
Zig either has to get to work or he has to
Yes.
pee, or maybe both. I'm
Yeah.
not sure which.
Well, the phone's been ringing a lot, Zig.
That's right, yeah.
I can't thank you enough. It was, I used to have you on the air every once in a while when I had a radio show, but this is more fun because we can tell more stories.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you coming in.
Well, thank you guys, absolutely, and I miss you guys. But I listen to you guys all the time.
Oh, God love you, Zig. Thank you.
Thank you, Zig. Ziggy Eichenbaum, if you're ever in Montreal, don't miss it. Ziggy's. Just right around the corner. It's a foot in the
Just go downtown and ask someone, where's Ziggy's Pub, and they'll tell you. Yeah.
On Crescent Street between St. Catherine and de Maisonneuve, closer to de Maisonneuve. Thanks for listening, by the way. We appreciate that very much.
Standing By, the Terry and Ted podcast, is sponsored by Jaguar Land Rover Laval, where the luxury is unmistakably British. But nobody wears a top hat or a monocle